Well, hello, hello, and welcome to my first radio show from a Windows RT tablet. This is Wes Fryer. Technically, this is not a commute with Wes. I'm not in my car currently. That would be a little dangerous probably to do that on the tablet. I usually make my on-the-road podcast with my iPhone, but I am working on coming up with some project ideas for a BYOD workshop next week in Florida, and thought radio show would be a good way to go. And optimally, it's wonderful if you can use the same tool or platform on multiple devices. And I know that Spreaker works well on an iPhone or an iPad. And so I'm just doing a little test here on the Windows RT tablet. And I thought I would talk a little bit about the elements of a radio show. Well, one of the ways to get your students learning about radio shows is, of course, to listen to radio shows, to listen to examples. If you go to the website for Mapping Media, which is maps.playingwithmedia.com, you can click radio shows and scroll down to the bottom, and there are some different links to different radio shows that students are doing online around the world. There's students in North America, there's students in Australia. And if you know of others, I would love to add them to that list. And basically, I listen to quite a few podcasts, and I really enjoy listening to, probably my favorite ones right now are The Story with Dick Gordon, which is an American public media production. I listen to the Technology, This Week in Tech podcast, I guess it's just called the NPR Technology Podcast that NPR produces. I listen to the Commutist podcast, which is by GigaOM, and they do a lot of, I like their Chromecast episodes. And I also listen to the EdReach network. If you're not familiar with edreach.us, they're a great podcasting network. So those are just a few. And that includes a introduction. So you're going to have an introductory bumper, which usually establishes the date, the name of the podcast, and in that introduction, you might have some music that they're going to play. And then you are going to have a show introduction that's going to basically give you an overview of what the show is going to be about. Now, some podcasts, and I'm going to use the word podcast, I think it's better to use the word radio show. It's not as scary a word as podcast, which people might not know what that is, but I think generally people know what a radio show is. Will be divided into different segments, and you can have those divided with bumpers. Some podcasts, which are commercial, actually have some advertisements, and so they'll have different segments, and then they'll have a message from their sponsor. I also love to listen to the Science Friday podcast. I don't get to listen to that live on Fridays, hardly at all, but I do catch the podcast version. And so when you are creating a podcast with students, you can think about breaking that into different episodes. And you can have interviews with different people. You can have panelists that are going to talk about different things. Bob Sprankle was one of the first teachers that I ever heard make a podcast with students way back in 2005, called the podcast segments corners. And so you'd have different corners that would be about different kinds of topics. But basically you're gonna have a storyboard like you would for a digital story or an outline for a written work, but it's going to have those different pieces and those different elements in it. Generally at the end you're going to have a closing bumper, and you may have a statement about the copyright, how you're going to be licensing and sharing this. Also, it's great to have information that lets people connect with you and get, if they have questions, if they've got ideas for the show, they've got feedback, where can they leave comments, and if you're using social media of some kind, Twitter, Facebook, if you've got a website like a blog that's set up for comments, all those things are good to have at the end. So those are sort of the elements of a radio show, and if I do radio show for this workshop next week, which I think I'm going to, I'm probably going to work up a new little handout that is going to have show elements. There's a great one, which Tony Vincent, who has the website learninginhand.com, worked up years ago for the Radio Willow Web podcast, and they use that. I think I have that linked on the radio shows page of Mapping Media. I did a modification of that a few years ago when we were looking at doing a similar kind of radio show at our church with our youth, which we didn't end up producing that many of them. But the website Blastcast, I still have, and it's a variety of different student-created media examples from Sunday school and Wednesday night church and things like that. That website is blastcast blastcast.wordpress.com, and we just shot a little quick no edit video with the iPhone last week when the students were decorating rocks, and then they talked about favorite Bible stories on rocks, and we recorded that with video. So anyway, there's a bunch of different examples out there, and I would encourage you to look at radio shows. One of the things that's great about making a radio show is you don't have to worry about the visual elements. Now, it's wonderful to bring in visual elements and to make narrated slideshows and digital stories, but that adds another layer of complexity. When you simply are focusing on the text, your expression, your oral communication, that actually can simplify things as well. Project and product. So those are a few elements of radio show. If you'd like to get in touch with me, my name is Wes Fryer. You can find me on Twitter at WFryer, Fryer, like a chicken. And you can, I think you can leave comments here on the Spreaker episode if you're listening to this on the Spreaker website. I'd love to hear from you. And definitely check out Mapping Media and the radio show page, because I'll continue to update that. I also have a link on that site to an ebook that I created last year, which talks about the first 6 products in the Mapping Media to the Common Core framework, and that is called Mapping Media to the Common Core, a handbook for digital teaching and learning, Volume 1. And so you can check that out. It's also available on Amazon and in print via CreateSpace, and I'm going to be hopefully in the next few weeks getting that up and available via the iBook store with Apple. So that's it. That's what I got for you today. Hope you've learned a little bit. Love to hear from you. Good luck making audio podcasts and radio shows, which is an even better way to talk about these kinds of products with your students and share them with others. Parents will appreciate that you've shared their student voices and amplified the great things that your students know and can do, and especially the things they're passionate about and the things they want to teach others about.